Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Multnomah Neighborhood Association March 2024 regular meeting. We'll be doing this from 7 to 8 o'clock. We're doing this in person and we're also doing this virtually. We're here in person at Riverscape Church, where we have a good 15 people here in the lobby of the church. And then we have, it looks like 15 people online as well. We have 3 board members here, myself, Julie Leet, and Jane Green online. We have Beth, Peter, just trying to get a count for board members here.
Corinne
is here. Okay, so we do have a majority of the board members here, so we have a quorum.
Thank you.
Okay, so we do have a quorum. Apologize for the last minute, for the little delays here, but we'll get straight to the work that we have here. First off, calling the meeting to order. We have the review and approval of the current agenda and the previous minutes. The previous minutes are in the common public folder, and the current agenda is being shown right now. Are there any additions or to the agenda that need to be made that I forgot? Hearing none, it's approved. There's our treasurer here, who just walked in the door, so that's great. So the previous minutes are in the common folder as well. Please let us know if there's any changes that need to be made to those minutes. As far as an officer's report, I do not have one right now. I think we've got more than enough topics to talk about without having to have me drone on. Beth, as Vice President, do you have any comments or a report to give? Beth, can you hear me? You might be on mute. Let me double check, make sure Beth is here. Oh, she might not be online. When she gets back on, I'll double check with her. Oh, there we go. We got Pam Fox. But then moving on to the treasurer and the secretary. Treasurer, is there a treasurer's report for us right now at this moment?
Yes. As announced last month, I did deposit the funds from Sweeney into our own bank account at Umpqua. So that task is done. That is, that transfer is done. And now working on the next step to transfer funds for the Spring Garden Park Fund at Sweeney to us. And for that purpose, I'll be asking for your signature on the request form while we're here tonight so that I can send that on tomorrow.
Wonderful. Very good. Thank you. And last but not least, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead,
If I
Beth.
may, I just want to say that I didn't have a vice president report, but I will give something in public safety.
Well, thank you.
The secretary has nothing to report.
I got it.
All righty. Okay, so we're finished with that part of it. Moving on to M&A development, we have to report that the livability subcommittee has been officially moved over to the community events committee. The purpose of that is that livability has been doing a lot more activity in the neighborhood on a real consistent basis. And so it just made a lot more sense to put it under community events to help support what they're doing there. And I can't wait for the livability report. You're going to be amazed, folks. Next up is the board retreat follow-up meeting that we had. We held a board retreat here recently, and in it it was meant to establish the vision and the mission of our new 501c3, and to then in turn in the follow-up to establish the goals and objectives of each of the committees. And so with the intention of being able to create a member orientation document that we can hand to new officers and new board members as they come in, kind of explaining who, what, when, where, and why of working with with the neighborhood association. So that will be coming out in the next few months. Probably next month is when it will have that final document. Don't you think, Jane? Yeah, I think so too. Oh, we've got a template. Okay, and then last but not least on that, on the agenda for development, let's talk, on the 14th of this month, our state representative, Dacia Graber, will be holding a town hall at PSU on the effects of the winter storm. So if you had trees that fell, or if you had property damage or any kind of challenges with that winter storm event that we had, this is going to be a good opportunity to be able to talk to somebody at the state level that can help us navigate all of those issues, and we can report back to her. But that will be on the 14th of March at PSU. And in the public folder, there is a printout or a screenshot of her event that you can download. Okay, what time is it? 7:11. Hey, I caught a couple minutes on time. I gave us a couple more minutes here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop sharing the document here. I'm going to get back over to this gallery here. Okay, here we go. First off, before we get to the next section, I just want to turn my video around so that you can kind of see everybody else that's in here in the room. There's also to my right, your left, we've got about 6 or 7 people over there that are sitting on couches and such. So we have a good crowd tonight. Let's get straight into this. The first committee report that we have is on the Multnomah Safe Rest Village Community Advisory Committee. They will be giving an update on the situation when it comes as it relates to the good neighbor and the planned expansion of the facility, and where we are in discussions with the city on that. So I'm going to be helping. I'm going to pass the mic to Will Fuller, a member of the Community Advisory Committee, and I'll be coming in as well to support some of the things that he says as well, to talk about those. So Will, take it away, sir.
Okay, well, just for people to be clear, the Community Advisory Committee is a committee to help keep track of the Good Neighbor Agreement as it is executed by the Safe Rest Village and other people. We're kind of the conduit for anything around the Safe Rest Village and the Good Neighbor Agreement to get to Multnomah neighborhood. It is a committee that right now is kind of in transition. When the Good Neighbor Agreement gets signed and things gets going, it will have a composition made up of 2 people from close to the Safe Rest Village and 1 or 2 others from the neighborhood. But what we're doing right now have been sending back drafts of the Good Neighbor Agreement between us and the city and the other people. We sent a draft out on the 7th to the city, and they brought back their response just tonight or a little after 5. So we only barely had a glance at it. That is in 2 parts. One is where they were generally in agreement with us, but a separate document where they had some additions that they had brought up, and we're not sure just what's in that or what the implications are. So we're going to have to study that a little bit and confer with them before doing more about it. But essentially, I wanted to give you an overview of what we are attempting to do with the Good Neighbor Agreement. Right now, we started with a Safe Rest Village of 30 people. Up to 28 were actually there. The city, as you probably know, has more than tripled the size of the Safe Rest Village and made a significantly, potentially greater impact on the neighborhood. So in modifying our version of the Good Neighbor Agreement, we had 2 main goals to make sure it was happening. The first was to improve the safety and livability of the neighborhood with this greatly increased size of a Safe Rest Village. Not only just the neighbors who live outside the village, but the participants who are in the village need to be safe and have as much as possible, a good livable situation, much as they had before. The second was focusing on how the Good Neighbor Agreement and the other documents that are controlling the Safe Rest Village's activities are actually being done in practice. And in fact, actions speak louder than words. And that's one of the major functions of the Community Advisory Committee, is to be a conduit for people's concerns or compliments or whatever about the village, so that the actual operation matches as much as possible what the people are supposed to be doing. And again, to the aim of having a safe and livable neighborhood. That's where the details come. Then the details have a whole bunch of stuff. There's some new things going. One of them is rather important. We're talking about expanding and modifying the zone of basically control, or where the impact of the Safe Rest Village will be, rather than 150 feet or 250 feet around it, something that is more dynamic and meaningful in terms of taking care of not only the immediate area, but sensitive areas like schools and businesses who might be affected, even though they're further than some arbitrary limit. And that's essentially where we are. We have just begun to look at the document. I think Moses can explain what we're going to be doing with them. There will be a period of discussion lasting at least until our April meeting. And there will be ample opportunity for people to have input and look at the documents as they are available, to say they have something to work on. So Moses, you want to carry on from there, or would you like me to say more? Hello?
Yeah, I apologize. I just had to turn the camera around here.
Okay.
Let me see where I'm at here. So as it stands right now, we have this afternoon about 5 o'clock, they did send us back the most recent Good Neighbor Agreement. We had sent ours off last week. They sent back to us the one with changes, their changes to it. It is posted on the public folder for this meeting, and it's available for anyone to review. There are points that we do not agree, and they range from, but they are receptive to discussing, and we still need to bring those back to the table and integrate them into the Good Neighbor Agreement. Like one of them was pet policy. I don't know what specifically they had a problem with it, but we've got to make sure that I'd like to talk to them about that and find out exactly where they're coming from on that and what's the difference. Pardon me? The city, we were working with the Safe Rest Village team, the task team, Lottie Porter, and with that, and Hendrick, the same folks that were at that last meeting. And we submitted to them after going through the Good Neighbor Agreement as we had it, the last one, making changes to it, having buy-in from everybody with the changes that we were making to it. We sent that off last week to the city of Portland, to Lottie's team, expecting them to have it back to us this afternoon, knowing that we weren't going to have enough time to look at it before tonight's meeting. But I decided to go ahead and just print it, have a copy of it there for everyone to see. So at least we can see and start to digest the points that we all agree on. And so everything that's in the current Good Neighbor Agreement that is posted on the public folder are the things that we all agree on. So that's 90% of what we have been, it's about 90% complete. The items that do need to be clarified through the city to make sure that they can agree to them, like, for instance, the pet policy. Those things will be coming back to us over the next week or two, and we can, as a negotiating team, be able to then incorporate them in with the objective of having a final document more than enough time before our April meeting, so that we can then in turn have a good discussion on it at the April meeting. So we'll have good 30 days. You can see the current draft. And then over the next 2 weeks, we'll be getting the changes that the issues that they have a contention with or could not agree to immediately. we'll have answers to those and we'll be able to incorporate them into the document. So we're almost there. And it's just a matter of continuing our work, quite frankly. Yeah. Peter, and then you, sir. Yes, sir. Peter, you're up first.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for coming tonight. I wanted to just clarify a few things about the Community Advisory Committee. I learned through this process that it's not comprised only of MNA members. The other members of the CAC are representative from the city, a representative from the county, representative from the impact reduction team, two representatives from the West Hills Christian School. So this committee is made up of all the signatories of this document. So it's much broader representation than just MNA. The second point I want to make is that one of the things that we wanted to make sure happened with the revision of the GNA is that the CAC does a much better job of publicizing itself and making neighbors aware that this is the conduit for expressing your concerns or questions or support of the GNA. And not just the GNA, but all the issues around the neighborhood that may revolve around the SRV and homelessness in general. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, wait a second. We've got. Okay, now wait a second. I'm gonna just a quick second, Lisa, and I'll get to you for sure. Okay, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, just a quick question. Is there a summary somewhere either on the public folder or that people can see of some of the concerns that have been experienced with the SRV? Because I'm kind of new to this meeting and just wondering if there's a place to kind of summarize like what kind of
Oh boy,
that.
that's a good question. We have the comments from the community from the original Good Neighbor Agreement discussion from about a year and a half ago. We have comments in our records from the minutes of the meeting and the videos of concerns from last month and with this new expansion. I'm happy to kind of give you a historical background of it offline. It wouldn't hurt. I'd love to. It'd be neat to have kind of a summary of the last 2 years with this Safe Rest Village, because there's been so many ups and downs and so many challenges with it. But yeah, there are some documents and some of those concerns. I mean, I've just received one a couple of days ago from an adjacent neighbor about very similar concerns that many of them have, you know, about the crime and such.
So the gentleman on the CAC.
And I've got Lisa here. Lisa Carney-Fenton is speaking next, and I think we have.
The gentleman on the CAC committee said that there's a representative from the city, the county, impact reduction, 2 representatives from the West Hills Christian School, and representatives from MNA. How many of those representatives from the Neighborhood Association live adjacent to the site?
Great question. Thank you. We were able to expand that to 5 representatives from the MNA. And I have a commitment right now to make sure that 2 of those seats are going to be adjacent property owners.
Why not 3?
Well, because we have the 3 members of the CAC that are also on there from MNA. It's the CAC, myself, Charmaine, and Will are the 3 members currently of the Community Advisory Committee. And then we have 2 more spots available on that for a total of 5.
Okay,
I'm
but
happy
when
to
I
put-
look at this,
Yeah.
no one here is impacted by the SRV directly except for the adjacent neighbors.
Mhm.
No, if everyone raises their hand, who lives adjacent to the SRV?
Technically.
Okay, again and again, we see these meetings, we see these people come in who don't live adjacent to it, who don't have to endure day in and day out problems, and we get no representation. That needs to change.
I hear you. I hear you. And, as I say, we've got the seats, we got the available slots expanded, and I am not adverse to having adjacent property owners. That's why we asked for it, is because we wanted to make sure that adjacent property owners were represented on the CAC,
Okay,
or at
and
least on the good neighbor agreement, CAC. Yeah.
And I just want to emphasize to everyone listening and everyone in the room, we have endured this situation for 2 years. We were told it was going to be 3 years and done. Next June, it's supposed to close. Now we're expanding and we're tripling in size. We have no mitigation for the problems. I called Impact Reduction Weekly. They never show up. The last issue was supposed to be resolved in 72 hours. It was 3 weeks. We don't have support in the neighborhood from the people that keep saying they'll support us.
No,
I
hear
don't
you.
want the good neighbor agreement signed until we get promises from the city and impact reduction and funds are channeled to keeping the neighborhood safe, clean, drug-free, litter-free, and on and on.
Well, I hear you. I really do.
You all hear me, but nothing gets done. There's millions of dollars going to expand it. Why isn't the money going to impact reduction to mitigate the problems?
All we can do here is what we can do with the good neighbor agreement. We are working hard for it. When you're yelling at me and you're yelling at us other volunteers, you're basically
I'm
preaching
a
to the
volunteer
choir.
too. I
You're-
volunteer
and
every day.
so my point is, Lisa, is that, yeah, we're working on it to try to mitigate the effect. we're not going to be able to take care of all of the ails that are affecting this awesome city of ours. But we can mitigate the impact of the Safe for Us Village and get it down on paper. And
Yeah.
that's what we're working towards right
But
now.
my skepticism lies in the 2 years that it hasn't been
I
done. We've been
understand that
told that
fully.
for 2 years.
They told me that for 2 years too, Lisa. I mean, I'm as frustrated as you are. We spent hours, if not, we spent long hours as the negotiating team, as the work group that created the Good Neighbor Agreement originally, and it languished for a year and a half. That was not, and
So my
so all we can
skepticism
do.
grows.
Yeah.
We're going to expand. My skepticism grows and grows.
Sure.
We have these meetings. I feel like we're gerbils in a wheel
Mm.
and nothing happens.
Well, I
So what
hear
is
you.
it going to take from the neighborhood association and the CAC to make real change? What's going to happen?
Try to put as much on paper as possible with the commitments from the city and the impact reduction team and All Good Northwest and all the other stakeholders to live up to the commitments that they have promised us. That's how we do it. And we do it through this type of process that we are taking advantage of right now. They are establishing communication with us. They don't have to do that. Obviously the backlash would be awful if they didn't, but they are interacting with us. They are talking to us. They are working with us. And it's going to be up to us as with the Good Neighbor Agreement to get it on black and white. And so that we do have an even stronger case in case things pop up like what you're talking about. We've got to make sure that it's documented and that there's a course of action for it, I feel. And it's going to go a long way. But I do hear your frustration so much. Lordy, over the last 2 years, Lord, it's been difficult, but we're so close to being able to have a final document. And you have a good neighbor agreement that you can start to look at available right now for the next 30 days that we can start to poke and prod. So that would be our next step, is to go through that good neighbor agreement. Jim, okay, it's 7:30. Yes, go ahead, Jim.
Can you please tell us, for the benefit of people who are offline,
Hi.
attending virtually, identify yourself or identify the speaker, Moses?
Sure.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yep.
My name is James Peterson. I own the woodworking shop. I was a long-time land use chair for the neighborhood association. Over the last 2 years, there's been a number of issues, and we've addressed these to the chair. I've never seen the chair basically respond to one of the problems that we've had. In the last month, there was a tent sitting up at the on-ramp that got moved. There were 3 cars. There must have been, I don't know, maybe 100 emails. I got a picture of 2 people doing drugs on the corner of the property. I sent that to Mr. Ross, plus a whole bunch of other people. If the process, the only reason those vehicles basically ended up getting moved is I got another commissioner involved. Now, this is a real problem. We were basically told that those vehicles couldn't be moved by the Safe Rest Village people. How do we expect that this document, I don't see any enforcement in the document that I read at 5 o'clock. And I don't see any requirement for All Good Northwest to do anything outside the fence. What is their responsibility? And what is the neighborhood's responsibility to us? Please explain those 2 issues. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
What is no neighborhood to do? We have a problem. That in the last 2 years.
Once again, the last 2 years, I have been in the exact same situation as you have been. We have not had a good neighbor agreement signed by the city. And even though I would consistently ask them for that, now they are back at the table. We have a good neighbor agreement in a 90% finished. All I can do as the neighborhood chair here is finish the job. You know, that's all I can do. Jim, you have very valid points. I appreciate your concerns. All we can do is finish the good neighbor agreement, get it in black and white, and have something to hold them accountable to. Up until then, it's all just puff and smoke. So that's what we're doing. And if you'd like to contribute in a positive way towards that, great. But otherwise, we're going to spend the next few weeks getting it developed and having it available for folks to see. And then in April, we'll either approve it or reject it. End of story. We have an accountability track. We have a track to take for accountability once we have the good neighbor agreement. Right now, we don't have anything what we can do except harp on them and consistently with emails and vitriol and frustration. And what I'm trying to do here is trying to get us a black and white pathway so we have a course of action. I'm willing to put you on the community advisory committee so that you can share your input as a adjacent property owner. Other than that, I'm not mayor. So I cannot snap my fingers and have the impact reduction team come and do something about it. All I can do is we can get this good neighbor agreement signed and delivered to the neighborhood so that we have a course of action in case something happens. I mean, I'm just being realistic here. So we have a lot more to discuss tonight. We have at 7:45, we have our special guest, and we have other committee reports to go. So I'm going to stop the discussion on the community advisory committee. We all know where it's at. The public document, the draft of the document is in the public folder. You're very welcome to go and review it. If you have comments, send it to the community advisory committee at cac@mnapdx.org. We'll get a copy of it, and I'll get a copy of it. We'll get a copy of it, and Charmaine will get a copy of it. And we'll start to take it into account when we're talking to the city to try to get this final document set up.
Question for you regarding the CAC. How do people apply to get put on the CAC? And is there a scheduled meeting? Like, is there a particular date that it's scheduled?
Yeah,
And is it public?
Yeah, I don't know if it's public or not per se, but it's every Thursday, once a month on Thursdays. The next one is this Thursday. That's where Lottie is going to be. We're going to be discussing the current GNA and where we go and the changes and our push, our response to those all. As far as the CAC and the appointing to it, I really can't do that just yet because it's part of the GNA, but once the GNA is finally finished, it'll be very clearly outlined who will be on there and we can get people on it, but right now we're just kind of running on temporary status until we can get the GNA.
Those meetings are the second Thursday of every month. I don't know if there's a fixed time or not, but second Thursday.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you
Thanks.
very much. All right. Well, next up, let's go to the community events, and we've got 10 minutes here to go through a few things. So Corinne, community events, Pam Fox, and Corinne.
Thank you, Moses. On the agenda, we have the Spring Garden Park of stewardship events, activities that are happening around Earth Day, and I think one other item. I don't have the agenda right in front of me. Pam, do you want to start with Spring Garden Park?
Sure. So these events are ongoing year round. They started up in October as a collaboration with the MNA and the city, specifically Heike, the horticulturalist in charge of Spring Garden Park. And we're offering about 2 or 3 events every month. And the good news is that just recently in the last month, I think as a result of better social media outreach and coordination with the Parks Department, we've had increased attendance. So in the beginning, when we were kind of launching this event series, it was oftentimes maybe just me and Heike or like maybe 1 or 2 other people. And that's kind of what you expect as you're trying something new and waiting for the word to get out. But we've done a bit more to kind of advertise. And I think especially with help from the Parks Department with like Instagram and stuff like that, we had 10 people at the last event, even though I wasn't available to go and neither was Heike. So we had somebody else leading the event and lots of people coming, and it feels like it's kind of launched. So we hope that continues. We're still trying to come out with a new schedule once every 2 months, so you can kind of see what's going to be happening and plan ahead for the events that you want to go to. So hopefully at the end of March, we'll come out with another schedule that will include April and May.
Pam, do you want to share some of the things that you guys have achieved since you started the stewardship project over the last 4 months or so?
Sure. So we've worked on a variety of different things in the park. One of the main priorities at the outset was improvement of the paths, the walking paths in Spring Garden Park. They're kind of steep. They're affected by water, and they had actually been starting to become slippery. So I think there were some issues around this. That's why it was a top priority, not wanting people to fall and so forth. So we removed kind of a base layer of fabric that was underneath the bark chip walkways in many of the path areas, and then replaced some bark chips on top so that it's not so slippery now. It's not freezing over. The bark chips had been washing off. We had a bulb planting event, so we're going to be seeing bulbs come up this spring and have some new flowers. A lot of weeding. So basically, the more we get people to show up and weed by hand, the less the park needs to rely on herbicides and sprays to kill weeds. So there's really a direct correlation with that. So that is a motivator, I know, for a number of people. And then kind of our culmination of the fall season was we crowdsourced a couple big trees from neighbors that we actually just collected money to purchase our own couple of trees to expedite the process. And we got 2 trees planted at the top of the park near the playground with the intention of increasing, eventually the amount of shade up there in the summertime for folks using the splash pads and just kind of hanging out up there. Because it is an exposed park and it is really hot in the summer up there. So we're hoping that will be something that kind of pays off in the future. And that came as a direct result of feedback from folks who use the park. So that was important to us to really just try to push those trees through and get them planted. So we had something really tangible we could point to and say, hey, look, like we're trying to listen and look what we did. So coming up in the future, something that we're looking at is the future of the sculpture at the top of the park. That round orb-like nest sculpture is actually ending its contract for maintenance with RAC. And it's kind of uncharted territory, like eligible for a new plan of some kind. So we'd like to have some kind of event where we can get community input, toss around some ideas, and work with HICA and the Parks Department to talk about its future. You know, there's a few ideas like transition it into more of a living sculpture, perhaps plant some creeping vine-like plants, you know, at the base of it, and let it use the rebar frame as like a growing space, and that kind of thing. And in that event, replacing the bamboo would actually stop. So it would be like by design kind of transitioning into something else. So there's a few possibilities there.
Cool. Thanks, Pam. And just for reference, the RAC is the Regional Arts, Culture, and Regional Arts and Culture Council that provided funding for the nest that Pam is referring to. Does anybody have any questions on Spring Garden Park or any comments for Pam at all that she can answer while she's here? Thumbs up from Robin. Yeah, it's been really cool to watch the work and the popularity of the work events take shape over the last few months. It's been a pretty cool community building event that Pam has put together and working with the Parks and Recreation Department. If there's nothing else on Spring Garden Park, I'm going to start to talk a little bit about Multnomah Village Business Association liaison and what's on the agenda as the new park adjacent to Healthy Pets Northwest. We've brought this up a couple of times in the meeting, and it's been mainly an idea that has been kind of kicked around between the Multnomah Neighborhood Association and the Business Association as a great idea. And it's recently picked up some momentum with a lot of great volunteers that have stepped up to help. And we have a small committee that's working on it. So just a brief overview of it. There is a green space empty lot on the corner of 36th and Southwest Troy that's right next to the Healthy Pets Northwest building, or across from Foreman Function at the top of the hill that heads down towards Capitol Highway. The owner of that lot has given us the go-ahead to turn it into a community space. So to do some revamping of the landscaping to make it a community gathering space, so that people can sit, bring their dogs in, have meetings, play music, whatever people want to do. And so to bring this to the community and to get as much feedback as we possibly can, during the third annual Multnomah Village Business Association Earth Day celebration that's coming up on April 20th, we are going to have kind of a community open house on that green space where we're going to ask people to give feedback on what they'd like to use the park space for, what they'd like it to look like. We're going to have a site map with a couple different elements that people can add to it to really get as much feedback as we can before we do any I can put quotes, construction of the space. And it all kind of depends on how much funding we can get and what kind of feedback we get from the community on what it turns into. We have kind of a soft timeline of after Earth Day. We'll compile all the community feedback. We'll bring it back to the neighbors. We'll let people vote on potential names for the space. And then we'll come together with a couple of plans, and based on the fundraising that we achieve and what's doable for the space, ideally we'll execute that over the summer months with volunteer help and tools and know-how and supplies and grants and anything that we can get, and turn this really into a community sourced park space. And then finally, by the end of October, when it becomes planting season, once this green space has been constructed based on what the community wants to see it look like and what they want to use it for, we'll plant some native plants that is guided by the Bureau of Environmental Services and Stormwater Stars, who have stepped up to help drive that part of the park. So right now we're in planning stages. We've got a small committee that's working together. If there's anybody who would like to step up and help with this design, and with this project, we are taking any help that we can get at this moment. But please come out on Earth Day to draw on the site map. We'll have site maps, like I said, color for pens. You could draw on your elements on the park, give your feedback, vote on the name, tell us what you want to use the space for so that we can really bring this together with the whole community's feedback. on what we can turn this space into. And that is mainly going into my next agenda, the Multnomah Village Business Association Liaison Report. I sit in on their event planning meetings and work with the business association on any projects where we can co-collaborate together and bring our organizations together to support the community. That's the main function that we're working on right now is Earth Day. And then looking ahead to some of their other events like Multnomah Days and the parade and that kind of thing. But I'm happy to take any questions or feedback on this green space event that's coming up on Earth Day. We will also send out probably an ask for support, because before Earth Day, we're going to clear the space as much as possible. There's already some blackberries growing to make it a little bit more friendly for people to be there. And then one more really cool element that I haven't mentioned yet is that we are bringing out City Repair, which is the organization that helped the Community Events Committee last summer with our mural painting on 36th and Canby. They're going to bring out their really amazing T-horse truck that has these beautiful canopy wings that shoot out from the sides of it, and they serve free tea to the community. So we're going to have that sitting on the lot. So it'll be a great space for people to come and gather and talk about the potential for this space.
That's
Does anybody
really
have
awesome.
any questions? Go ahead, Moses. Yeah, does anybody have
No.
anything they want to ask? Okay.
If anybody has any questions about this, you can, we're definitely looking for volunteers for all of these projects, especially. And Corinne, I just love the project of the creation of the park there by Healthy Pets. I know everybody here has seen that little space right adjacent when you turn down to get up back onto Capitol Highway. And yeah, just beautiful. Absolutely
so
beautiful.
Please come out and see us on Earth Day. We'll be out there from about 12 to 5 collecting community feedback. And if anybody has any questions or comments, reach out to the Community Events Committee. Our contact information is on the website. We are always happy to engage with our neighbors about what we can do to bring more community building elements to our neighborhood.
Wonderful. And Jane has a quick comment, and then we'll go.
Corinne, I just want to say thank you so much and congrats on all this work. And it is the element that keeps our neighborhood balanced with all of the other anguish going on. This is the kind of stuff we need to really absorb and be grateful for. So thank you for all that.
Thank you.
Moses just walked away. This is Julie. I'm going to give the Livability Subcommittee report as quick as humanly possible. We call it the Livability Subcommittee because I don't like to say graffiti and trash. So it's a nicer way to talk about the activities that we're doing to clean up the area as best as we can. Some activities that are most recent are we had a solve cleanup event on Saturday the 9th, and about 10 participants came on Saturday. Another smaller group came on Friday, and we cleaned up 1,800 pounds of trash on Southwest Barber between Alice and towards Les Schwab. We have collaborated with the Hillsdale Neighborhood Association and painted up Chabad House that had a lot of graffiti on it towards Hillsdale. We have been removing graffiti on both underpasses from Southwest Multnomah, both here near John's and towards the freeway. This Sunday, the 17th, St. Patrick's Day, we are doing a really fun graffiti cleanup at the Coin Cottage, the former Coin Cottage that has graffiti all over it. There are 2 shifts of like 8 people. We've got all this Metro paint, and we'll be making it a clean slate and keeping it a clean slate for the remainder of 2024 through the support of the owners of the Coin Cottage, who are going to try to also attend. So we'll have sandwiches and cookies, and it'll be fun. If anybody wants to get painty, come on over between noon and 3 o'clock, and we'll give you a roller and we'll have a good time. We have approval now through RID to do a very large cleanup of Southwest Multnomah underpass where Barber is. There's it's a significant dump site on one side, and it's a big challenge when it comes to cleanup. So we have their approval. They'll be picking up what we pack and prepare for the weekend of April 6th and 7th on the 8th. So we've been collaborating with a couple of nonprofits to get that taken care of. I'm really, really, really excited about that. We will be looking for some volunteers. We're not yet ready to make that call out. We're going to have a lovely Earth Day cleanup event here in the village, super family friendly, from 10 to noon. It'll be announced shortly. 40 volunteers. We have all these wonderful areas in the neighborhood that you can choose, and then bring your trash back, and we'll dispose of that. We're getting a grant through Metro to do 7 dumpster days, where we will be using likely Neighborhood House on Barber for absolutely free. It's a 20-yard dumpster. It's massive, and all of our neighborhood will be able to, for free, bring large items for free disposal, and then we'll be giving grants. We'll be giving some number of free pickups for those people that don't have the right vehicles or the ability to lift or carry items. And the whole idea with that is to lessen the impact for taking away the need for dumping illegally or unsafely. We will be working with Metro in mid-June for a hazardous waste drop-off event. And again, we've been growing our graffiti removal and abatement services. We're removing it as fast as we can. We just saw that the bioswale got tagged, and we'll do that this weekend as well. And Chabad House got tagged 2 nights ago, so it'll get fixed tomorrow. We don't yet have a place for community members to communicate dump sites or graffiti yet. We're working on a way to best communicate that in a uniform fashion, so that members of the community can reach out. And our goal is to get rid of it faster than you can check on it. And that's about it.
Once it's tagged, if we paint it over, if they tag it again, we'll paint it over again. You know, I mean, the audacity of these taggers, man, I tell you, we painted on Friday the Chabad House, and by Monday it had been re-tagged. So we're just going to go paint it again, you know? And it's been interesting working with the rabbi there as well. They hadn't really thought this was a big deal or a problem, but I think we're finally impressing upon them, you know, we can do something about this, and it just doesn't need to sit. And it's kind of also their shared responsibility too, you know? So I am running so behind on my, go ahead, Jane, go ahead.
Real quick, I'm sorry. I just want to kudos to Julie for all this work also. The Solve event on Saturday was one of the bright spots, honestly, of the month, because working with just a handful of volunteers, everyone came and said, what can I do? No complaining, no griping, and it was refreshing to be with that spirit. So thank you for that.
Right
Look
on.
forward to more.
And there is certainly more. So, and many, many, many thanks to everybody that showed up on Saturday morning. That was fun.
And Friday afternoon.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, Julie, what is RID? What does RID stand for?
Is what?
RID. You keep referring to RID.
Oh gosh, I don't know, but they're a city organization that are going to pick up our trash. So I don't know the acronym, and I apologize. Metro introduced me to them. Peabody and Metro introduced me to them.
Perfect. Thanks.
Wonderful. Okay. We are 8 minutes behind schedule here, and I know that Valentina, the guest speaker for the for an update on the construction project, is here with us. We're going to go slide right into that, and then we'll come back around with the rest of the committee reports and get the heck out of here and go have our rest of our Tuesday. Okay, so I see Kristen, I see Valentina, and I see someone else who's also with your project. And so I'm going to turn this all over to you, Valentina.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Moses. And hi, everyone. Thank you all for having us tonight. I'm here with my colleagues, Kristen and Alan from ODOT, to answer questions and share project updates. And I'm going to be starting to share the slides now and turn this over to Kristen. Kristen, you're still on mute.
And did you want to introduce yourself? Ellen, you're on mute. Do you want to say hello? So I'm Kristen Kibler with JLA Public Involvement. Valentina and I have been working with ODOT on public communications for the project I-5 over Southwest 26th Avenue. You probably are all very aware that for almost a year now, Southwest 26th has been closed to vehicles while ODOT is working on building a new structure underneath that will be a new bridge over Southwest 26th Avenue. This is a pretty important project. It creates that important freeway connection. 100,000 vehicles travel over I-5 every day over Southwest 26th Avenue. And we wanted to come and give you a quick update, but also make sure that you are aware of the upcoming, the more regional and big impacts that are coming up over the summer. There is going to be one weekend closure of I-5 in both directions in this area in June or July. And so we're coming out to all the neighborhood associations to give you a heads up that this is coming. We don't know the exact date yet. We're working with the contractor to land on the date, but by May, we should know when that closure is happening. And Ellen just turned on her camera and she is with ODOT, and we've been working with her to get communications ready for when we know that date. So, Valentina, are you sharing slides?
Yes, I'm waiting for the screen share ability to be updated.
Oh, okay.
So as we are waiting for that to be authorized, I see that there is a comment in the chat and a question as well, a comment from Stephen and a question from Kathleen. Stephen said that he assumed we'll cover it, but we're all interested in learning when I-5 will be closed and what the details will be and what we're doing to reduce impact. As well as a question from Kathleen about when the project is going to be finished.
You should have screen sharing now.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Will.
So while you're getting that ready, Valentina, I will, we're going to give a quick update on what's happening with Southwest 26th Avenue. It is going to be opened back up in the spring. We are hoping for April 30th for the opening date. Kind of fingers crossed for that, but we imagine that it will be open by April 30th. We do not have the date yet for the I-5 full closure. It will be over one weekend. And when that happens, Southwest 26th Avenue will need to be closed during that time again for that short periods for safety, because they will be working above and below the bridge structure. So it will need to be closed again. So kind of stay tuned. There was another comment about how do we stay updated on the closure date. We will give you the website in the chat, and we're hoping that folks can go and get on the email list so that you can get an update. We will know by May when that closure date is, and then it will be pretty fixed unless there's some, some very, very unlikely scenario that could occur. But once they announce the date and confirm that it will all work, we will make that announcement in early May. We're getting ready right now to update the website, and we're getting ready to send out some mailers, and then we will be also sending out some postcards. So if you are about a half a mile from that closure area, you will get one, but if you are beyond that, you may not. So once we start sending out email updates, it would be great if you can all work with your networks to share information with folks. So just wanted to answer a few of those questions before we get going. Go ahead and switch slides there, Valentina. So as I mentioned, this is a very important project. The freeway carries 100,000 vehicles every day. Those are all going over Southwest 26th Avenue. Construction started in it last year, almost a year ago, and we anticipate that everything will be wrapped up at the end of this summer. Next slide. So if you haven't been near 26th Avenue, if you haven't walked or ridden a bike underneath it, the roadway is being improved to have better lighting, bike lanes, and sidewalks, and the structure is being built underneath it. ODOT chose this approach because it saves time, cost, and really minimizes the impact of the travelers over I-5 and limits the nighttime work. They can do most of the work during the day underneath the structure. So when Southwest 26th Avenue is completed, there will be the bridge structure will look like a kind of a tunnel or a culvert. There will be lighting. There will be Boston ivy, the non-invasive ivy, on the outside of the structure to soften up that new concrete. and then wider spaces for people walking, biking, rolling, and a new upgraded intersection of Southwest 26th Avenue and Southwest Barber Court. Next slide. So if you've been around in that area, you've seen some of the construction happening. You can see here on the right, the frame that's being built that will be filled in. So it will look a little bit different than it did before under the freeway along Southwest 26th Avenue. So the big push now is to get information out about what's coming up next. As I mentioned, the work is mostly been happening. The bridge structure has been being built underneath the freeway right now. And so what will happen is for one weekend this summer in June or July, for Friday night to very early Monday morning, the I-5 will close for 4 miles in both directions, and the crews will come out. They will pretty much lift this deck off of here, rebuild it, and pave that for a new bridge structure. And as I said, the reason they chose to do that approach is it allowed freeway traffic to keep traveling while the work was happening underneath. Next slide. So construction impacts. In advance of getting to that full weekend closure, there can be nighttime single lane closures in the evening, and then up to 30 nighttime double lane closures. So that's 2 lanes in one in both directions, but 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. So pretty late at night, but that does cause quite a bit of congestion in the evening. And then next slide. So for one weekend, and as I said, we do not know the date yet, there will be a full closure of I-5 for 4 miles. The ramps in that area will be closed and not allow traffic onto I-5. And that will be to limit folks in that area driving through that area. The Capitol Highway, Barber, and Terwilliger is like the hard closure, where if you are in that area, you will be pulled off of it. Next slide. We will be advertising a regional detour. So folks are encouraged to take I-205, 217 via 405 or 26 to stay out of the area. And then many of the ramps between the area will not allow people to get onto I-5. So the ramps between, let's see, Cruise Way and the 405 entrance onto I-5, those will not allow you to get onto I-5 during that weekend. I saw there was a question. Let me get through this one more slide and then I'll take a couple questions. And then if people you can expect a lot of congestion during that weekend, but if people are remaining on I-5, there will be a hard closure and they will be exited off and they will be on Barber Boulevard and have to come off. They have to detour around the area. So we are going to do our best over the next couple months, once that date is known, to keep people from traveling through this section of I-5. And there will be a lot of signage during too. So, and then this shows that I can answer more questions about the local detour, and this helps everybody get around. But as we can all anticipate, there will be some congestion. There'll be a lot of congestion that particular weekend. So if folks here can get on the email list, you'll get the date once we know it, and that will help spread the word. And then we'll also have a lot of advertising that happens. So let's go and Valentina put the website in the chat if you would like to go get on the email list. But I saw that there were a few questions.
Stefan, I see your hand is raised. Go ahead and.
Yeah, thank you. I have a couple questions. One is there going to be signage or other actions taken to reduce the impact on the neighborhood? I understand if all the drivers would stay on Barber, we wouldn't have a problem. I foresee areas of Barber becoming a complete parking lot, and then those cars going road rage, and then they turn down Alice and they end up speeding down these tiny sidewalkless roads of Southwest Portland in the Multnomah neighborhood. I understand you're talking to the other neighborhoods, but I would say that 99.9% of this impact is going to be inside the Multnomah Neighborhood Association area, because that's where people are going to hit the massive log jams. So are there any tools or other things you're doing to reduce that impact?
Lynn, do you know if there are some local traffic controls, like additional road closures, or we might want to look into that?
I don't know about road closures. We adjust the signal timing with projects like this where we have a big detour. I will say one of the reasons we kept Barber open as the detour is because it's a straight shot. So it gets people off the freeway and then right back on with few turns, and it's an easy detour. Also with routing, it actually reduces diversion. If we would have just routed folks onto I-205 and 217, and they're kind of weaving through neighborhoods to get back to where they're going if they are headed somewhere in Southwest Portland. So that's what we've been told, is having Barber open as the local detour actually reduces diversion.
I actually like,
yeah.
I like Barber. I think it
Yeah.
makes a lot of sense. I do think that, between 11 and 2 on Saturday and Sunday, when things get really busy,
Yeah.
if it does become a complete logjam of cars, it could be helpful to have a class 2 barricade that has a sign on it that says local traffic only, that you'd have to like drive in the left-hand lane briefly to get around if you wanted to go up Alice or 30th or other streets, and just to some sort of deterrent, I think, to reduce people going, well, screw this, I'm just going to go to Hillsdale and then cut down to Williger or whatever.
I see.
Yeah.
I can ask about that. I haven't seen us do those kind of barriers in past closures, but it's something I can certainly ask about. Yeah.
And one more thing, if what in May, if we find out and that day ends up being like May 30th and then the closures for like June 10th, I think that would be inappropriate. Ideally, we find out sooner in May, and then there's enough time to prepare. Someone mentioned that, we're having a block party one of the weekends in, I think, June, and I know I will try to take my family out of town that weekend and get back Monday midday or something, right? So the sooner we find out, the better everybody can plan. And so ideally, we're not finding out late May that it's going to be early June, and there's not time to plan.
I have a question about the block party because I'm planning that. I was just wondering if I could ask maybe just advice for Stefan and the guest speakers. Like, what's our best approach here? I'm wondering if we might need to reschedule it, because I'm concerned about if there is a lot of congestion, our own road closure could be kind of overwhelmed, like by too many cars, like not honoring our little garbage can signs that we put out for a block party. And it's June 29th. And we set the date last year, kind of not knowing this would be an issue. I'm just, any advice about I'm just not sure what to do, if we should think of rescheduling it if it's on the same weekend.
Well, how about this? The specs in the contract are awesome. The contractor has to give us 90 days notice of the closure. And so we would find out, and the first place you'll see that date is posted on our website, probably. So 90 days before or so, before that June, your block party, you could check. our website and see if we've posted it. We may not post anything till late April, and that would mean it's a July weekend. Does that make sense?
Okay, so we will know 90 days ahead and we might know in April, not May. Okay, and then I would get that information just by being on the mailing list.
You would know when the date is actually set.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, the earliest we would know is in April. The latest we would know is in early May.
I see. Okay.
Wonderful. Okay. Are there any other questions for our guest speakers tonight about this project? It sounds like we've got to keep on our radar your project, Pam, as far as the timeframes. Stefan has one more question.
Yeah, one more real quick one. Is there going to be information on the website on if there is a problem during that weekend closure, who to get in touch with, or is there going to be someone from ODOT monitoring it? That if Barber just becomes like gridlocked of cars, then it's causing issues. There's ways to address it on Saturday or Sunday, or it's just like once we go, it's going to happen and we just get through it.
Well, our staff are always out on site monitoring during something like this. I will say it will probably be very congested. So maybe that's a yes to both of those things. Yes, it'll be very congested, and yes, staff will be monitoring. I think they're in a closure like this where we do expect a lot of congestion. They're looking for safety issues, and do we need to adjust the signal timing because it needs to be adjusted to be more efficient, or this, one side is backed up too far. What can we do to make this better? That's what they're looking for.
Yeah. I'll say the I-5 North off-ramp that you're using for the detour, if you hit that red light, I just like set a timer and take a nap because it's like 20-minute long red light. So that one is insane. I don't know what's going on there at 99, but if you don't adjust that, I-5 will be backed up to San Francisco.
Good to know.
A lot of the ramps and they will be adjusted during this, but we're also planning on trying to keep vehicles out of the area between downtown and Cruiseway ramps. So you won't be able to get onto I-5 in those locations.
Hey, thank you and best of luck. This is very exciting. This is going to be a great project. I'm really looking forward to 26 being open.
Yeah, there's one other project that we put in the chat that will be happening at the very end of the year and next year. Some real-time new variable signage that goes in this same area. So we'll try to include something in the communications about this project so that you'll be up to date on that one too.
Okay, fantastic. And as always, if folks have any questions, we can funnel them to the folks on this project, to Valentina and your team. And we'll certainly stay in touch. It sounds like we've got to make sure that we are Johnny on the spot, making sure that Pam's event can happen. We're not San Francisco seems far away, but I'll take congestion until Wilsonville. I mean, just because. Okay.
Thank you. I just want to know a few questions in the chat and just provide some quick answers that the detour routes will be posted on the website. You can probably find them around April as well when we have the confirmation of the date, and slightly earlier if possible. And when working at night, there could be noise issues for noise nuisance for the neighbors, but we'll be using noise mitigation methods, and there will be a noise hotline for anyone who are disturbed by the noise, and we'll send out postcards prior to that. And lastly, I just want to note the question regarding the project finishing. It is expected to end by this through the summer, so we're hoping this is one last push of construction. And if there's any more questions or more technical questions you want to discuss regarding the detour routes and closure routes, we will actually also be at the Land Use and Transportation Forum this March 25th. So please feel free to come back and share any questions or concerns with us. And like as Moses mentioned, feel free to get in touch with me if you have any questions.
Thank you. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. Yeah. This is a big project. This is all about improving our, that little space there. And, one thing I noticed about that new design too, you can't camp underneath the freeway there anymore. So just FYI, as far as that issue goes. So thank you very much, Valentina. I appreciate it.
I don't believe that, Moses, for a second, but
I'm trying to be optimistic
to be
here,
debatable.
But it is a design that deters it. Let's just put it that way. Lord only knows they might improvise, but okay. Hey, let's move on here. Thank you again, Valentina. And Stefan, while you're here, you're up next. Let's talk Southwest Troy. And I want to, let's talk Southwest Troy and that Greenway project that was not meant to be.
Yeah, so I'm not sure exactly what I reported on last time, but I did have a meeting recently with Steve Stigathy. There are 3 projects that were up to receive funding using Tryon Stephen Headwaters LTIC funding. And one of those 3 projects, Troy Canby, is going to go mostly unfunded due to demands from other locations, and the reasoning behind choosing one project over the other I don't agree with. But the decision-making process is not out of lines with what I've observed, the trends and the politics behind where to fund stuff. And so that project is reduced to, I think, a stormwater curb and a catch basin on one little spot. Other than that, there's not going to be any other project there in the foreseeable future, or planned at least.
I have a question for you,
Questions.
Stefan, in regards to that project. And I know that Robbie and Karen are on the call as well. It had been discussed about doing the M&A advocating stronger for the Greenway project, for this project on Southwest Troy, and writing a letter in support of it. Stefan, in your opinion, will that move the scale at all in this project, or what? Is there anything that we can do to help?
I think in hindsight, we should have written a letter probably back in, and I know that there were some emails that flew around about this outside of the M&A, but regarding M&A being in support of the temporary diverter scheme that was getting thrown around by PBOT at 25th and Troy. I think that would have helped a few months ago. I think ultimately it was decided that a previous letter that the M&A put forth would suffice. However, I still think with what I know now, I don't know if that would have changed the situation, honestly. I think that somehow this project was doomed regardless, due to issues with how that diverter would be pushing eastbound traffic on Troy south on 25th into an unimproved section, I think was the ultimate demise of that, in addition to what PBOT is referred to as low traffic counts. Hey, bud. Hey, bud. Can you go eat some apple and let daddy talk? Thank you. Sorry. And so I do think that there's things we could have done that could have improved the outcome. However, I don't think that would have been enough. The projects that I believe are getting funded are non-controversial. I think that PBOT has lost an appetite to do anything controversial. And unfortunately, diverters are landing right now in the controversial department. So they're gonna use that money. They're gonna pave a street that has a couple unpaved sections of it. And that street gets about 300 cars a day. So it doesn't make sense to me, but the street's also in a neighborhood that has a better equity score than our neighborhood. So, yeah.
I appreciate your frank talk on that. You know, it's as someone who lives on that street, obviously I had a vested interest in it happening, but I just don't want to. I mean, if reality is what reality is, you know, it is what it is. But it's unfortunate because at least at least they funded the sidewalks there on Garden Home, or not Garden Home, pardon me, on Capitol Hill Road, close to the in an attempt to try to connect the new Habitat for Humanity development there.
So that project and this paving of Galeburn are the two projects. A paving of Galeburn and putting in a protected sidewalk type structure on Galeburn were the two projects that went ahead. And on Galeburn, it connects Markham School to Jackson, and so that was a project that appeared to have a better outcome, I guess, for the decision makers.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay, good stuff.
I've got a couple other things too, real quick. One is that the Multnomah, there's going to be more of the protected sidewalk type structure like you have between the post office and 45th. They're going to do from the bridge at 37th to 40th. So in front of Sit Stay Fit and the car repair place on Multnomah on the north side. That project will get constructed this summer. It's going to have a much more well-defined protected walkway and bike lane. So that's positive. I do think if Fixing Our Streets 3 passes, I do think we're going to be able to get an upgrade at 35th and Multnomah too.
That upgrade at 35th and Multnomah will be mostly because of your efforts, sir. So I appreciate that.
Trying to work the system. And also, we're going to hope to put together Southwest Neighborhoods joint transportation open house, similar to the Multnomah one that we did in October, to try to band all the neighborhoods in the Southwest area over the hill. So I have a meeting on Monday with that group, and hopefully that can come to fruition before the election, and hopefully utilize it to put pressure on people trying to get our votes, to have them come out and give us promises.
I love that idea.
Yeah, it's a good idea, Moses.
Right on.
I don't have much else.
Okay.
I do, Moses.
Yes. Yeah, go ahead, Robbie. Go ahead, Karen. Pardon me.
Yeah. So regarding the Troy Canby Greenway, and Stefan, what do you think of still just, I don't know, throwing that, we were going to do a motion, getting it on the records.
You know, I am a novice at how motions get put forth and all that stuff. And so
me too.
I'm not the wrong person to ask. And I apologize. I'm overcommitted and have way too many things going on in my life to be able to totally follow up on that. And as far as diverters are concerned, while I personally am for them, I'm not sure if the neighborhood association wants to be for them. I do think the neighborhood association wants to be for temporary diverters that we can then use to determine if something's going to work or not. And I do think once we get a temporary one in, everybody will be all the way for them.
It's a great idea.
On a case by case basis. So that's kind of why I wanted to push for the temporary diverter And I do think
Yeah.
that's a good position for the neighborhood to take.
Would you like to, how do we go about doing that? Because, the PBOT did promise that.
Yeah. Tad, what's the process there, or Moses?
The process is to work out the language of your motion. Start with words like.
The mic is not on.
Hear me? Okay.
Yes, now we can.
The process starts with sending a motion to the chair. That starts with something like the words, "I move that," something happened. And get that to the chair at least a week in advance so he can put it on the agenda.
Okay,
And
that was done. So should we just do that now?
Well, the motion that we have right now was in advocacy. Wait a second here. Wait a minute.
Oh, do we need to do that next time then, Moses?
Yes. And what I can also commit to do in complement to the motion is follow up with Stefan in regards to the letter advocating for the temporary diverters. I think that's something that we could write a letter and have that sent off by Friday for sure. And maybe we might not need necessarily the motion to tell us to do it. Maybe we should just do it. And,
Yeah, sounds good.
so yeah, so as we're talking about it, I'm kind of thinking, yeah, let's not, motions are great, but I think we just need to write a letter. And I think we can
Yeah.
put it under the chairs. And I agree with Stefan, let's keep it focused on the diverters. And then also mention our approval of the Greenway project and advocacy for it. And we can
Good
have
idea.
that. You see what I'm saying? We'll put that in the second paragraph, for our support of that. And I think that letter, if we send that letter out, I think that'll have a bigger impact than the motion would.
Right, and I'll go ahead and send that language I used again, because I think that explains why it's important.
Yeah.
To have the livability and community that can be achieved by putting returning a neighborhood street into a neighborhood street. That is being unfortunately used as a cut through or regional type street or transit type street. So
Exactly. Yeah. Well, let's do
good
that.
idea.
Yeah, let's do that then, Stefan. I'll work with you over the next day or two to come up with some taking what Karen has shared with me already. We can create a letter and let's shoot for Friday to get that sent off.
Okay, and Karen, let me throw something else out there, and this might water down what you're trying to say, and if it does too much, then we don't have to go to this route. And I actually was talking to Steve Sigathy today before this meeting, and this came up, and Steve has now learned the complexity of the whole situation because of the poorly laid out grid of streets here. I think what I would love to see is there to be the PBOT hires a consultant that does this professionally to create a comprehensive master plan that solves the issue of local streets being used as a pseudo arterial, since the arterial network is poor and slow. And I can be at Ida B. Wells pool on Vermont, and I can get to my house faster if I cut by your house. And I don't, but I do know that route is faster.
Yes.
And so that's a problem. And as long as that's the case, this is not going to get fixed. And so the bigger issue is, I think a professional consultant should be hired to look at what can be done to fix this. And maybe the answer to that is you put a diverter in.
Yeah, right.
But
great idea. They did have a private consultant though. And that's what's so so strange.
But I
They,
think that was just for like the design of this one piece, and they
Oh.
didn't. It wasn't like a bigger bigger picture,
Oh,
holistic
right.
look at like, hey, what are the issues on getting pedestrians to and from Multnomah Village safely?
right.
You know, and Troy Canby would get highlighted. I guarantee you 35th would get highlighted, and probably a lack of continuous sidewalk between Gabriel Park and the downtown core would get highlighted. Corinne, I'm sure you can speak to that. So I think a
Yes.
consultant would highlight all these and then say like, okay, well, here's your list of 10 projects, and if we had to prioritize 3, those would be the 3. Because I don't think that's happened. And when I've asked the city about this,
Oh.
they said, well, there's Southwest in Motion. Well, that was developed by who brought the most like people with torches and pitchforks to a certain meeting to get their like pet project put in there. And so, yes, some of those projects are good and the right ones, but it's not the same as having a professional consultant look at it. I don't know if you want to consider doing that, but let's take this offline and maybe you, me, and Moses do some emails this week.
Sounds good.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
okay, so we will take this offline, Karen, and I promise you that we will get this. Let's have our goal. I'll state it now, of getting this letter sent off by Friday, so we can use the next couple of days to wordsmith it, take into account the points that we need to take in our advocacy for the Greenway as well as the diverters. And yeah, we'll do that. Okay.
Excellent.
Excellent. Good. Thank you, Karen. And thank you, Stefan. I don't mean to be so abrupt, but it's 8:30. I know y'all want to get out of here. We've got about 10 more minutes worth of stuff to do. And of course, the most important stuff is the Budget and Finance Committee. So, which is our chair, our treasurer, Tad. And then last but not least will be public safety. And I hate to put public safety last, especially because we had coffee with a cop. So we'll get through these last 2 reports and then we're done for the night. All right. So Tad, you're up.
Budget and finance does have 2 parts to it. On the budget, the committee met today and the committee is meeting every 2 weeks and making incremental progress in its efforts. On the budget, we had a first conversation about that today. And we are attempting to have a proposed budget to present to this body in a month or 2 or 3. But that's our goal, is to have something. And normally that's a budget is something to be approved at the annual meeting. But we've never had one, so we want to get one together soon.
Never had a budget.
Right.
Right.
Never had a budget.
Per se.
On the finance side, the committee is also working hard to develop appropriate accounting procedures for ourselves. As treasurer, I am the committee chair, but Corinne has actually been more effective at keeping us organized and on task and aware of all of our duties. Corinne, are you still on? And would you like to add anything to that? I don't see that she is.
Who was that, Corinne?
Yeah.
Corinne, she must have dropped off. That's
Okay.
fine.
Let me see. 2 more things. I'm gonna say something real harsh for the sake of making an attention-getting point. If those of you who can hear me are not on the board, you are not a member of the Multnomah Neighborhood Association, because we have no non-board members right now. As you may have heard at some point, what we learned as we were developing the new bylaws approved last October, membership cannot be assumed just by living within the boundaries. An eligible resident has to give consent. And so we have a consent form. We've got hard copy consent forms in front of me. And we are working hard to develop a consent form that we will post on the website. Working on some technical issues with that. But please, if you are not a member yet, ask for the consent form and we'll make you a member. Also for, well, those in the room, if you'd like a copy of the bylaws, I've got a stack in front of me. Shall I move on to standing rules?
Sure.
Okay. Well, that was my standing rules report. So I'm done.
Oh, okay. Wonderful. And I realize also that we have one motion that we as a board have to vote on here after we get the safety committee report, and that is on the CEI hub sign-on letter. So expect that vote here in just a second, folks. That'll be the last thing that we do tonight. All right. So Jane Green, hello. You are up. Turn on the light.
Shouldn't Beth go first?
Oh, is Beth's not on the line?
Oh, she's not. Okay, sorry. Okay. All right. Really, in a nutshell, the Coffee with the Cop, which we were invited to by the Sweeney Safety Committee. And as a representative of MNA Safety Committee, I was happy to attend, and even happier that it was Coffee with Cops. There were 3 of them there, including Captain Quick and a PBB volunteer. And that really enabled for good conversation and input to get all those different responses to the questions and concerns around the room. Just a few takeaways. There was a lot of material discussed in a short time, but the general consensus is that, yes, there are definitely issues. There are escalating concerns about safety issues in our neighborhood. That is not going to end anytime soon. The officers all agreed to call. Do not give up on calling, even though you feel like, what difference does it make? I call and nothing happens. Everything they do is dictated by data. And the more calls they receive on various concerns, the more the reports will get some action. They also clarified the ranking system for calls to 911 on a scale of 1 to 10, for example. A trespassing might come in at a 3 level versus a shooting in North Portland that comes up at a 9. The officers go to the highest number. So we had an instance at my building, for example, last weekend. We waited 4.5 hours for a response. And that was the reasoning given. And also an informational piece was everything is determined by the interpretation of the 911 call receiver. They're the ones that determine what level and what that report's going to say. So the more clear the caller can be when you call to report something, the better. Give the clearest description. And again, don't be dissuaded by fear or giving up. Keep calling and reporting. They are very much an advocate of community policing, meaning getting to know the officers in the area. Don't be afraid to approach them. And also take care of yourself. Stay safe. And the force is short. I mean, they are definitely downsized from where they were a number of years ago. And again, that's not going to change anytime soon. But they were pretty optimistic in most areas. They do have a program called Community Safety. It's a free training program that they literally come out and do. So I did afterwards go online and apply for that. I was also told they're extremely back ordered with it. So who knows when we might get it, but I'm hopeful that might be something MNA could offer in the neighborhood for our community. I think it'd be great. And it's free, even better. Also, after the meeting, I met with Officer Jason Graff, who is the local patrol officer for our neighborhood during the daytime. Captain Quick was very confident in sharing that the more we get to know the officers and the process for what they do, the better off we'll be able to be and the safer we're going to feel. The other follow-up I did was contact Corinne Franche, who was the volunteer attending that day. She shared her card with me, and we have a meeting coming up in April to talk about other safety training programs. She's also on the committee for equity, and we might have some things to share there. So it was a very good, short but informative meeting, and we're looking forward to more of those, I hope, down the road. So thank you very much.
That's cool. And, you know, it all kind of relates to to the main issue of this evening was with the Safe Rest Village, you know, and the mitigating of the impact. You know, the closer that we have relationships with the police department, the better. Yeah, agreed. All right, one last item of business, and this is for a board vote.
Moses?
Yes.
Moses?
Oh, there she is. Hi, Beth.
Hi. Yeah, never mind. It's just phone problems over here. I just wanted to say that I don't know if Jane mentioned that she and I met last week, that we had a public safety committee meeting. Did you mention, Jane?
Nope.
Okay. Anyway, she and I had a public safety committee meeting, and we kind of divided up our duties, and Jane will be working on her project of, I don't know if she explained that or not, so if she wants to go into that, that would be great. And I'm going to be working on trying to make sense of what's going on with the city safety. They put all of the various safety programs under one umbrella, and we don't seem to be getting a lot of feedback from the city when we call with problems. So taking on as my job to sort out everything that's going on in the city, who we should be contacting, for what purposes, and to start reforming relationships with those people.
Wonderful.
That's all I wanted to say.
Oh, good. Thank you so much, Beth. Bonnie, I just accidentally sent you a message. I was meant to send it to Will. Will, yes, equity is next. I forgot a committee. Please be brief.
Well,
It's too
do I
late.
be brief or do I follow the examples?
I don't mean to put you on the spot. Yeah.
Well, okay, I'll be brief because I wrote my report and put it into the meeting materials. But I'll show it briefly on the screen and then to emphasize some of the things. There are 5 points in our report. We want to get a grant for website accessibility because it's a complex area that needs more than our limited amateur time. There's a social equity toolkit produced by Neighbors West Northwest, which is pretty darn good, so we'll take a look at that. We're reaching out to Muslim organizations in the area for getting Islam involved in being representative. And we're looking at the demographic survey of the neighborhood. But I want to focus on the final one. Who wants equity training and what sort? How do we become a neighborhood which is more representative and more inclusive than we have now? And we want to have people tell us, what do you need to know? What sort of help would you need to get in a way that is meaningful to you and isn't beating you over the head for being a racist or something, just has some meat to it. So you can email equity@mnapdx.org and let's talk. And that's the report. The report is on the web at the meeting, and there are links to the references for the various subjects.
Wonderful. And I'm so happy that you got that social equity toolkit from Neighbors West Northwest. Neighbors West Northwest is the new district coalition office that has taken the role of Sweeney Southwest Neighborhoods on in this new format that we have because of the changes. Long story short, I saw that little toolkit and I'm so happy you've jumped on it. That's really neat, Will. It'll be interesting to see how that works out.
Moses, I just want to, if we think that our website is inaccessible, we ought to go look at their website, which is one of the worst I've ever seen. So they're going to have to do a lot of work on that.
Okay. Sounds good. Oh, you're talking about the Neighbors West Northwest. Yeah.
My gosh, their website is just a nightmare. So, and they have on their website that web accessibility is so important, but they are not living up to it at all.
Oh boy.
So
All right.
we'll
I'll
have to be
mention-
working with them on that. I've
agree.
kind of been holding back, waiting until it becomes District 4, and then offering to work with them on it.
All right, let's get this vote out of the way so that we can, the motion is, all right, and by the way, thank you everyone for those committee reports. Here, one last, okay, before we do the vote, because I want the vote to be the very last thing that we do. There is a fundraiser for Southwest Hope, the neighborhood house group that is working towards their fundraising efforts, if you will, for the pantry. And so what they're doing is that they're doing a program called Empty Bowls on Saturday, March 16th, where you can go there to their new offices. You can, for $5, get a tasting flight of soup and breads, and then you can purchase your favorite bowl of soup to take home. Seasons and Regions is going to have their awesome soup. The Tomato Bisque, Otago, and Anita's will have, of course, their dill pickle soup. Yum. And so for $5, you get to taste it, and it's supporting a good cause. Awesome. All right. Last but not least, it's 8:46. We last month, Bonnie McKinley, who is diligent, who is durably stuck around for this entire meeting, God bless you, gave a presentation about what the work that 350 PDX has been doing in relation to raising awareness of the dangers with the CEI hub, the energy hub that is out there in the Linton neighborhood, where literally 90% of our gas for the state of Oregon is located at, before it gets dispersed. And so after that, we had the presentation last month with the intention of the board having a vote this month to be to sign on to their letter to the city council and to other government agencies in support of this. Bonnie, I know you're on mute right now. Did I summarize that, the intention of the letter correctly?
Well, 350 PDX is a part of it, but it's come from a group called the CEI Task Force, which has members from a number of organizations like Columbia River Keeper and things like that. It's not just 350 PDX, and it's 90% of Oregon's fuel and many other types of toxic materials. It's not just gas. There is liquefied natural gas there in the blue tank, but there's a lot more than that. And it is right on the Columbia River, right off Highway 30. Highway 30 is sandwiched there between the CEI hub, Critical Energy Infrastructure Hub, and Forest Park. A lot of these tanks were built and not maintained well before we knew about the Cascadia subduction earthquake zone, and it is on seismic liquefaction zone.
Right. And let's see, Will, you have a question or a comment?
Yes, I do. Have we heard or have we solicited information from anyone who opposes what 350 PDX does? Or are we taking the word of only one side of the issue?
I don't know what to say.
Well, I can address that to a certain degree. I mean,
Sure,
I know
go
that
for it.
I can't address it on behalf of the Multnomah Neighborhood Association, but we do have sign-ons from 36 other neighborhood associations, including Hillsdale, Irvington, Maplewood, Hayhurst, and many all over town. We do have sign-ons for a number of organizations like the Oregon chapter of the Sierra Club and the Ecumenical Ministries of Oregon. We have close to 20 other organizations. And we do also, we're basing this off of the report that the city and the county put forth. And I did send all those materials and links to that to the board.
That doesn't answer my question, does it?
No, because I can't answer that.
Yeah. Well, no, we have, no, I can,
Sure.
well, I can safely say that we did not have an opposing viewpoint on this letter.
Did you
And
solicit
if
one?
you feel that, I'm willing to defer it to the signing of the letter until we can get an opponent of their efforts in here to
I
talk.
recommend we do that then, that we actually find somebody who has possibly the Zenith company or something like that, to see whether we've heard the best story. It's impressive that a lot of organizations have put on it, but as we take an issue which is controversial, it's a little awkward to say, we took those guys, they seem like nice people to us. You know what I was talking about. This is not a balanced presentation, period. And we can.
Well, okay, well, I will assign to you, Will, the task of finding an opponent for
No,
this, of the CEI
The chair
hub.
should do the same thing you did with those, find a chair, find an opposing opinion. I'm just
All right,
asking that
well,
we be
I-
clear about this.
I will
If I
say
may
that there
say this-
was no, oops, go ahead.
I have
Since-
Stefan with his hand up, and I know that Beth wants to make a comment.
Sure. I'll just go real quick. I mean, I'm pretty sure I know what the opposing opinion is. It's going to be, well, if our state legislatures all get together and force these oil companies or energy companies to fix the situation, those costs are going to get passed on to the consumer, even though those companies are making boatloads of profit. Just the way our capitalist society works is you're going to pay a higher rate on your energy bill and you're going to pay more for gas in Oregon. And so that's probably why state legislatures are probably a little apprehensive about doing this, because, you know, no one wants to pay more money at the pump. I'm not advocating for it, but I'm pretty sure that's what the person from Zenith Oil is going to say. Like, guess what? This costs money. This money doesn't come out of our profit. This comes out of consumers in Oregon.
Well, once
Beth,
again, that's not
okay.
the point. The point is, if we haven't gotten information from the other side, that's, and we can go ahead with it if you want to. I'm not going to be awkward, but I would abstain if we hadn't heard from somebody else, but I can't vote for it.
Will-
I've heard other
Will-
arguments.
Okay, we have a comment here also, Will, from Julie, another board member.
This is,
And I was supposed to go next, I believe.
Oh, pardon me, Beth, please, go ahead, Beth, go ahead.
I know it's hard because I'm calling in on the phone. It's hard for you to remember I'm there. This is such an important environmental concern. I really see no reason for us to wait to hear from business side. I think Stefan made really good comments explaining how they would respond.
this is Julie. From my extensive assessment of supporters of the CEI hub, which was all of the last 60 seconds, the only thing I can find is the Bureau of Energy Management. I can get you a planning policy person that at least is trying to communicate fire inspections. It's not very robust, but if you would like to be introduced to the planning policy person of the Bureau of Energy Management here in Portland, I can do that for you, Will.
Well, again, this is not a personal request. This is a procedural thing. I'm perfectly willing to defer it. And so go ahead. When we have a controversial issue.
Well, wait a second. Okay, wait a second. If we're talking procedural here, I'm going to be procedural. This is a motion that was lifted. No, wait a second, Will.
I'm
Wait,
saying,
Will,
let's not talk
please.
about it any further. Go ahead with you. I will abstain, and that's the end of it. But next time, get an opponent.
Well, next time, if there was opponents to the motion, they could have presented them within the 30-day period of time that we had for this. We accepted the motion. We accepted the speaker at the last meeting, and the motion was very clearly with the intention of having a vote for it this month. I wish you'd have brought the concern about the lack of an opposing opinion to it in the last over the last 30 days when we could have done something about it. But now, if we were to go forward with your very valid point, we would have to wait another 30.
You don't need to
we'd
talk
have
about
to,
it. Moses, you don't need to talk about it any further. I've made the point. That's it. Let's proceed.
Yeah. Okay, so we have myself, we have Julie, we have Jane, we have Tad here in the room as board members. We have online Will, we have Stefan, Peter, and Beth and Diane. So 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we have a total of 9 out of the 12. So in this case, a majority of the vote of the present members, 9 would be 5. So based off of the motion that we were presented with to sign on to the CEI Hub letter that from the presentation from last month, I would all those in favor of being a sign on to that, please raise your hand or say aye.
Aye.
Okay. So I have Beth, Jane, Julie, Stefan, is that a raising? I have Stefan. Okay, are there any?
Peter says,
okay. And Peter says aye, that's 5. So that would be our majority for the vote. I'm not voting, so I'm not going to place a vote. And then all those against say nay. And abstentions.
I abstain, of course.
Okay. Okay, and we have 2 abstentions, and I appreciate that. Oh, and of course, our parliamentarian says that we don't count abstentions. So in this situation here, we have 5 in approval, no in opposition, and that's it. Yes. I guess it's unanimous, even though, yeah, Tad says it's unanimous. That makes sense from the voting board members. So in that case, Stephanie, you can put your hand down and we will be signing on to the letter. And Bonnie, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you
Yeah.
all.
And I'll connect with you tomorrow morning and we'll make arrangements to include the Multnomah Neighborhood Association on that letter.
Thank you.
Wow. I'll take a motion to adjourn. Okay. Second, third, fourth, fifth. Okay. We got it. It is 8:57. Onward and upward, folks. Thank you very much for attending our meeting tonight. And we'll be in touch. Okay. Very good. Thank you all.